Off Script with Super E recommends listener discretion, as these real but sometimes uncensored stories can be filled with mature content. Hey, Jay here, and we are Off Script with Super E, coming back at you with another Super E tale from the street, as we like to put it. And we've already had a couple of things that we've talked about. So right now, I'm just going to turn it right back over to you, Super E. Tell us another tale.
Well, remember we were talking about earlier how these prostitution arrests, you'd have discretion to either lock the person up, or if they had good information.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, you know, most of it was for like drugs and stuff.
Mm-hmm. How often do you think what would you say if you could put a 50-50, 20-80, whatever, how often would they have good enough information that you could waive that arrest or citation or however it was that was doing back
I'd
then?
say about, in my situation, in the cases that I had, I would say it was about 25%, because these girls are in the mix. They're around the people that are selling the drugs. And a lot of these people are selling drugs. You know, you get your little turf wars and stuff. Well, they're eliminating the competition, or they hear who's shot, who did the shooting,
mm-hmm.
or who's breaking into what stores to get money. So these girls seem to know what's going on.
Right. And I think that's something that we're kind of missing in today's world of what we do. Is I don't think we have enough of that going on at the street level to provide that information. I think too many times now we get caught up with detectives, and I've been there myself, where you think you're relying on just the community itself to provide that little nugget of info. And a lot of crimes, homicides, whatever you want, robberies, whatever, they go unsolved because I don't think we have enough people out doing what you were doing back then and getting that information, because it doesn't seem to be flowing in these days, not even at 25%.
Right. It was, and like an example of it was, this is probably over 30 years ago. I'm driving down the main drag where we had all the prostitution activity.
And you're working Vice, right?
Working Vice,
okay.
Driving an undercover car, trying to look like Johnny Depp, because that was my nickname for a while, was Jump Street. The prostitutes would call me Jump Street.
Really?
Oh, here comes Jump Street. And
what would your name be now, Super E?
I think it would. I think it would be like painting with Bob Ross. That's how I feel like that.
Okay, all right.
We've got a pretty little tree here. We can paint some Van Dyke brown.
But anyways, so I'm driving down the street.
That was good, Jay.
And I see this girl working, and I don't think I've ever seen her before. And so I'm trying to make sure, okay, is this a working girl? Because like I've said before, working girls do not walk with a purpose. They don't have a purse on because they don't have anything.
Right.
They don't need it. It's not important to them. And they're looking at cars. They're looking in the traffic and that kind of thing. So I just honked my horn. And that got her attention. Usually when you honk your horn at somebody, they ignore you. I honk my horn, has her attention, and then I would generally yell out a name, Lisa or Tammy. Because, like they say, everybody knows a skanky girl named Lisa and Tammy.
Where'd that come from?
I was watching Pauly Shore, the Weasel, on MTV.
Hey, buddy.
And he said that. And I said, he is right. So that day I yelled out, Tammy.
Right.
And she turned around and said, yeah, what do you want? And I'm like, oops.
Her name was Tammy.
Yeah, her name was Tammy. And
All
I said,
right.
well, it's me. And she goes, who are you, Ray? And she goes, I think we've been together. I said, yeah. I was just going with it. And she jumps in the car, immediately makes a proposition, sex act in exchange for U.S. currency. And then
that's exactly how you asked it too, right?
Yeah. But
as opposed to like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What?
There was no Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, that's 30 years ago.
But
I wonder if they take PayPal nowadays.
I don't know.
Would it be something?
Yeah, that would. They might. You never know.
Yeah. Venmo.
But she didn't want to go to jail, of course. She says, I got some good information for you. And again, I'm like, okay, you hear a million stories that nothing. And I'm like, listen, I don't care if you have information that some guy named Pop-Tart is selling. some weed. I don't care about that. She goes, no, this is good information. You know, the little 12-year-old that's missing that everybody's been looking for around here. I know where she is. And I said, well, you know, I think there's somebody else investigating it or something like that.
Had you heard of the?
Yes, I knew that
so
there was a young girl missing. I didn't know what all the details were, but they were saying, look out for this 12-year-old girl.
It was a story.
Yeah, it was a story. Yes.
Everybody knew about it.
Yes.
Okay.
And so she goes, I know where she is. I was a little skeptical, but she goes, I'll take you to the house. And it was just a block away. It was on the main drag, a great big house. Mm-hmm. And she goes, I saw her there last night, 8 o'clock. I know who she is. She's in there with a bunch of dudes. And I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was like she's not able to leave, or they're keeping her. Okay. And a 12-year-old girl with a bunch of older guys,
right?
It can't be good,
right? Of course.
So I go, okay. So I get her information, and so if it turns out to be false, I would get a warrant for arrest later.
Okay.
So I hustle down, and I go tell my captain, and he goes, get over to missing persons. And so I get there as quick as I can, and I think I have all this good information. I think I'm going to be helpful.
Well, yeah.
And I walk in, and the detective assigned to the case was older, and it looked like, you know, he just didn't care anymore. Mm-hmm. He was burnt out or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me like I was a freak show walking in.
And we've all been there with that. And just a quick, you know, I remember when I was in an agency before I came to this one, in a place far, far away. But I was on late shift, fresh out of the academy, young, and it's like 2:30 in the morning. I found an open door on a restaurant. I think, man, here, you know,
oh yeah,
on it.
It's gonna be big.
Get on the radio and get somebody else coming to help, and went up to the door. And back then they taught you to use your PR-24, that stick, that crooked stick that we carried back then, and how to prop the door so it doesn't shut and all these things. So
oh yeah,
this old crusty dude rolls up. I got the door propped. I'm sitting here and I'm like waiting, and we're getting ready to go in, and of course I get my gun out. He looks at me and goes, "Put that damn thing away. You're gonna hurt somebody." Walks in, flips on the light. "Anybody here?" No answer. Turns the light off. Goes, "I got coffee waiting." I was shattered.
Yes. Yeah.
It must be the same guy that I was talking to.
Exact same guy.
Yes.
Had a uniform.
Was there anybody
missing
in there?
Persons?
I don't know.
Everybody got coffee.
Nobody answered.
Did you lock the door back up for him?
We closed it up, locked the door. I put my tail between my legs, just you know, drove off. It's like felt like I was driving off like one of them cartoon cars where everything was square, all the wheels were square, and I was just limping along, man.
Right.
So anyway,
well, that's how I felt with this guy. He was looking. He kind of was being very condescending to me. Because I guess, you know, I had long hair and a beard and the Motley Crue tank top. Mm-hmm. Everybody had one. And
you still have it.
I still have it, yes. You had to get married in something. But anyways, so I'm telling this guy, I got this information from a prostitute. She says the information is good. She saw the girl there last night, described her there with a bunch of guys. She thinks she might be held against her will and all this. That's all the information I had. And he just kind of was very dismissive. Oh, that's old news. That's old. I've already investigated that. And I go, you did? And and I was just curious. I said, well, how'd you do it? I knocked on the door.
Oh.
I said, and then what happened? They opened the door, and I asked if the little girl was there, and they said no.
Oh, case closed.
And that was it. Go. And I couldn't believe it. I was like you.
Yeah.
I was kind of like dumbfounded and felt like an idiot, and I just kind of walked away. And then when I got in my car, I was driving back there, and I was just thinking about a 12-year-old girl is possibly in this house with these guys, and, you know, she needs help.
Right.
So I was like, basically, I was like, F that old guy. He don't give a shit, you know. So I said, I'm gonna go make sure that, you know, she's not there. And if she is there, I'm getting her out of there, getting her to safety and getting her to the hospital. And so I'm driving by the house, and I'm looking, I'm getting madder.
Mm-hmm.
that seemed like nobody wants to do anything. And I just said, screw it. And I whipped that car in front of that house, walked up there, knocked on the door. Now, you don't knock on the door like the police because they're not going to open it. If you just knock on it like,
Right. Is that versus a
Yeah.
kind of, sort of?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so then the
That's a
dude,
good police knock.
the dude opens the door. What do you want? I said, I'm looking for that little 12-year-old. She's not here. And I said, then you don't mind if I look? Out of my way. Boom. They didn't say stop. So I took that as consent. So
I was going to say that. I think that's consent.
That's consent. There's a 12-year-old girl involved who needs my help. And so I'm looking around and I'm thinking, well, maybe she's not here, but I'm going to go upstairs and be thorough in my checking.
Now, just real quick, did you tell anybody you were getting ready to do this? Were you on your own, on your own as could possibly be?
I was on my own, and I was stewing as I left the police department, headed back to the area. I was like, man,
you were mad. You felt somebody needed to do something.
Yeah, somebody needs to do something. I'm not going to sit here and just do a surveillance on the house and do nothing.
Right.
Because you don't know what's going on in there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I went in, and I'm looking around, don't see nothing. They're like, told you, see? And I said, I'm going to go upstairs. Nobody said anything then. It kind of got a little quiet.
Uh-huh.
So I'm upstairs, and I'm looking around. I see in the closet, they got bags and bags of clothes, plastic garbage bags of clothes piled up. And I'm like, huh. So I start walking over there, and I thought I heard something.
Mm-hmm.
Did I hear something, Did I think I hear it? Did I actually hear it? So I'm starting to lift the garbage bags up, and as I'm lifting the garbage bags, it seems like the whimpering got a little bit louder.
Okay.
Got a little bit louder. And then once I got down the last couple bags, I could hear it was a young girl crying. And once I got that last bag off and she saw me, she was terrified.
Uh-huh.
And because I look like Charles Manson.
Right.
And so I said, sweetheart, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to take you out of here. And she held her hand out, all nervous and quivering. I put my hand up, pulled her up. I had to carry her out of there. Because it's like she wasn't going to, it's like she couldn't walk or something. She was so upset. So I carried her out of there, and I was walking out. I looked at them dudes. I said, you guys better not cross my path ever again. I took her outside immediately because I didn't have time to argue with them.
Right.
I had to get her to the hospital.
Get her out of the house.
I called up victim assistance. They were right on it, took her to the hospital. And so I had to go back to my office and do the paperwork and tell my captain what's going on. And he immediately zoomed down to the missing persons unit in a few minutes. That snarky, patronizing old detective, it seemed like he cared that much about my information. He's up like, oh, I heard you got some info for me and all this. And I tried to control my I told you so.
Right.
Snottiness, dripping with smugness.
Yeah.
But, I gave him the information needed. He got his case done. And I just went back out, and you're on to the next thing.
Right. So you don't know if there was any follow-up beyond that.
But after that, I was, I'm out of it.
Okay.
So
they took it over.
Ernie, I think that might be one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard. I've heard a lot of cop tales.
That know what? At the time, I didn't even think about it.
Right.
A-Train.
And here's and how we've known each other all these years. We've had all these talks and sat and done all these things together. I've never heard that. I mean, that's absolutely amazing that you.
I completely forgot about
did that.
Yeah, and then somebody brought something up to me a couple of years ago, and it jogged my memory about that. And
that's some big balls.
Let me put this in perspective, Super E. You forgot about something that other cops probably would build their entire career on. You say
they would I know cops that if they did that, they would start a podcast.
We talked you into this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this wasn't your idea.
Super E, I honestly don't know whether to call you Super E or Liam Neeson because that's exactly what that story
is. I think
is.
they both shaved their bag with a weed eater. I
like Jason Statham. I would like that too because he's got the British accent. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I said that.
Okay. I thought that's what I heard. I wasn't quite sure. Super E, that is an amazing story.
But as you know, where we worked at, there were always stories like that. Officers were dealing with that stuff
Right.
all the
Right.
time. And that's why, because I went on to something else
Right.
just as crazy.
Yeah.
And there may be some people listening. They're like, "Well, it doesn't sound like maybe he followed 100% the proper procedures." But you
Right.
know what? Who really cares right now? Because you got that little girl out of that house.
At that time,
And-
I didn't give a shit about the Monday morning quarterbacks.
I mean, you didn't
Right.
do anything wrong.
No.
But it seems like in today's policing, it's more about the production of things than the actual substance of the work. And honestly, I don't think it gets more substantial than that.
No, it don't.
Yeah, it was just the mindset they gave you that your job was to protect the innocent, the weak, from the criminals that preyed on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what our job was.
Right.
In it, it goes back to, okay, you're out there, you're arresting street prostitutes. Yes, that's an important thing in the community, but it leads to these bigger things.
Right.
It is an important thing to do.
Exactly, because the information from these people led to bigger and bigger things.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, we were always trying to, help the prostitutes, always trying to get them to go to rehab, help them get back to their families and get contact with their families. So, we weren't out there just to lock them up. We were trying to help them.
Right.
And then that would help the community
Right.
if they got clean and became
Absolutely.
a productive member of the.
That's it.
Of our
Yeah,
city.
that's a great story, great tale. I don't even know that's a tale. That's a freaking story. That's heroic, man. That's
Well,
not.
thank you
that's-
very much. I
that's-
appreciate
I'm
it.
telling you, man. I mean, you got an S under that shirt or cape or what the hell, man? That's wow.
No, I've got a D for domesticated now.
Oh, I see. Are you Mr. Mom now?
Yes, Mr. Mom.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Very
we,
good.
We watched you through the window with a broom in your hand. That's
Exactly.
okay.
He was in here sweeping and
No worries.
dusting.
It looks great.
Yeah, I
I
know
did
it.
like the maid outfit.
Well,
I'm glad you, took
what?
that off.
I made sure the apron doesn't fit too tight.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Little too tight.
Jay, do you think that should we just quit now?
Yeah,
Because do you
I-
think we can top that story?
No, I'm gonna go file my retirement paperwork because I'll never be like E.
No, we'll never be
I'll
like you.
never be like
Oh,
that.
now
He's
come on
one
now.
of a kind.
Telling ya.
I'm blushing.
Telling you, out.
But you know what?
Jay out.
You know what? I think we're going to keep doing this. We're going to try. I don't know if we're going to top that, but we're going to come up with some stories that are going to be very entertaining.
Yeah.
Aren't we, guys?
Yeah, I mean,
I've got a couple.
You got a couple?
I got a couple.
Joe Namath winning that Super Bowl. I don't think it got better for him. but,
1969. He guaranteed it.
there you
He
go.
did.
There you go.
He did.
It's like Super E guaranteed the safety of that 12-year-old girl and made it happen.
He did.
That's
Man,
right.
That's great. That's great. All right. Well, that's going to close this episode out. A-Train Maestro, if you will, hit our out music.
Our same out music.
same
It was
out
our
music.
same in music.
Same in music. And one day we're going to write a song.
We are. And
You
it's
know.
going to be about Super
Oh,
E.
the Ballad
can't
of
wait.
Super E. I can't wait for the Ballad
Right.
of Super
My
E.
mom will love it.
She will. She'll love it. So I'm going to tell everybody out there listening, keep listening, because I think you're going to enjoy our Super E theme song once it gets written.
Right.
But until then, we're going to call this one quits and come back and see us again or listen to us here off script with Super E.